And good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate everyone for attending today's session. Hopefully you're here to learn a little bit more about what all is going on in the auction world. The session is titled Bricks, Mortar, and Beyond, the 21st Century Independent Auction. My name is Chad Bailey. I'm the president of the National Auto Auction Association, as well as the president of the Akron Auto Auction in Akron, Ohio. Before we get into all of this and kind of how the Q&A is going to work, I'd like to take a minute to let everyone get introduced here. We've got a star-studded panel here today of great independent owners and people that really move and shake the auction world. So let's first meet all of the panelists, and then we'll kind of dive into the conversation.
Hi, I'm Ryan Clark, owner of Greater Rockford Auto Auction, and also a board member of ServNet, which is an association of independent auctions around the country.
Hello, I'm Jeff Barber. I'm the president and the owner of State Line Auto Auction in Waverly, New York, and my family and I operate that.
Good afternoon, everybody. Lynn Weaver. I am the executive director of the Independent Auction Group, which represents the 196 independently owned auctions in the National Auto Auction Association, and the previous owner of Harrisburg Auto Auction.
Bruce Beam. I'm the vice president of the ServNet Auction Group and the general manager of Dealers Auto Auction Oklahoma City, which is owned and operated by my family.
Thanks, gentlemen. So kind of how we're going to do this is it's really just going to be an open discussion amongst the panelists, really kind of bringing everyone to speed, educating everyone, and just kind of talking about where we are in the auction industry, where we're going, and I think obviously which is important to you, the relationship that we have with you guys, the independent dealers. So how we're going to kind of just start to this is we're going to kind of lob some questions out there and let our panelists go. Depending on how the time works, we'll also be able to have some time for Q&A afterwards if you guys have any questions for any of the panelists up here or anything for myself. So one of the first things we've kind of always talked about with the auction industry is value. And everyone has a different definition of value, but we really thought it was important to discuss the value. And so I think we're going to start with Jeff. And Jeff, if you could just kind of explain value in your world and how you really think it relates to the auction world and our dealers, I think that'd be a great way to kind of kick this off.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Full disclosure, first thing I'm going to say is I want to make it understood that with everything that goes on today electronically and digitally, we don't want to be perceived up here as anti-technology in any way. And to that point, I want to enlighten everybody as back in 1995 on October 12th at my auction, we did the first ever simulcast sale. It was the first time ever that a remote bidder was bidding against live bidders in an auction environment. And as I say, that was Columbus Day in 1995. It was at a closed General Motors auction, and we sold 400 cars that day for General Motors. 45 of them were sold online. We had 15 remote bidders that day, and 13 out of the 15 remote bidders actually purchased a car. So that goes back to 1995. Now, we have driven our stake in the ground at our auction to let everybody know that that was the first time ever on planet Earth that was done. But I think something that's even more important than that is, back when that happened, I am a member of the ServNet group that Chad alluded to. It's a it's an organization of independently owned auctions throughout the country. And at that point in time, we were approached by a gentleman by the name of Steve Campus back in 1995, and he had technology that he wished that he could use for selling cars. And he approached the two large auction chains at that time, and he was turned down. They said, no, we're not interested. Then he came to a ServNet meeting. Matter of fact, we were in Detroit. It was in November of '94, I guess. And he said, would anybody be interested in trying this? And of course I said, yeah, we talked about it, and we thought we could do that. And as I say, it was with a closed environment. Now, that was the first time ever that remote bidding was actually done real-time, live. It was before the word simulcast was even bantered about. So the word simulcast wasn't even used back then. And since then, obviously that's taken on a life of its own, and there's a lot of cars sold electronically. But my little short soliloquy right there was to just let you know, none of us up here as independent auctions are anti-anything as far as technology. To the contrary, I think we're a lot of times on the forefront because we can move quicker and do things maybe in an easier way than some of the bigger people can. But anyway, now I'm going to bore you with some more details, but I tried to think as we were planning for this panel discussion, I'm thinking, how can we really describe value? How can you translate what we do to be valuable? And I got thinking about it, and I'm going to give you something that maybe nobody's ever thought of before. and even me, I didn't think about it till a couple weeks ago. We averaged 1,292 cars at our auction a week year to date in 2019, and we've averaged selling 762. So that came out to 58.9% is what we're selling. So we're between a 12 and 1,300 car auction every week, and our sale day is Friday. Our average bidder count is 689 bidders, and our average bidder badge is 878, because obviously we get some bidders that get multiple badges. So 878 individual bidder badges from 689 individuals. We also have a way to track where our dealers come from, and we figured out that the average distance traveled by our dealers is 111 miles to come to our auction. So if you do the math, if 689 bidders travel 111 miles, they drive an aggregate total of 76,479 miles to get to our auction every Friday, and then they turn around and they drive back 76,000 miles. So that adds up to 152,953 miles. But who's counting, right? My point of all this is there's value in a live auction. There's value in a real auction. Those people don't have to get up at 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 in the morning and travel the distance they do to come to our auction. And they come because we've got a very good market. We've got a lot of cars. The cars get sold, and they're able to do business with us and conduct their business. So whether they're buying or selling, they make an effort to get to our place. So there's obviously value in what we do in brick and mortar auctions. I think in today's world, technology is so highly thought of, rightfully so. I think it also maybe unconsciously people look at the old way of doing business and think, well, that's old-fashioned, that's old. We're going to do something better. We're going to do something new. Well, we still get the job done at a physical auction every week, as does everybody up here on the stage. And one thing that lends to our success, of course, is it takes critical mass to do a good auction. And to get true market value for anything, you need to have good critical mass. And that's when you have a ratio of cars to buyers, such as we do, or anybody up here on this panel, then that's a true market and things get done in the proper method. One thing that an auction does that almost goes unmentioned, but I think when you distill down, it's the most important thing we do. Of all the things we do, we offer a guaranteed check and a guaranteed title. A guaranteed check to the seller and a guaranteed title to the buyer. Not only do we provide that, but we provide it in real time. If you come to our auction, you can walk in with a check or a floor plan, walk out with a car the same day, or you can come in with cars and walk out with checks the same day. There is a lot of value to that. You don't have to wait 30 days for your check. You don't have to wait for your title. You can get them the same day. We have rules and regulations that we follow, and it makes for a very comfortable environment and an environment where people can do business with confidence by coming to a physical auction. And one more thing I'm going to cover here, and then I'll quit talking and turn the microphone over to somebody else. But when it comes to value, I think we have to talk about what we really do as far as being the mediator or arbitrator, as it is, between buyers and sellers. Again, to give you some figures, between April 19th and June 7th of this year, this is an 8-week period, we averaged 197 post-sale inspections. We averaged 103 frame inspections. That's per week. And from those post-sales, that generated 20 arbitrations. So we would drive the car, our post-sale technicians would drive a car, and then they'd turn it over to arbitration and say, maybe there's something wrong here. So another point that I think is worth mentioning is we only average 7 dealer arbitrations outside of post-sale. So when a dealer buys a car and doesn't post-sale it, he can drive it himself, of course. He gets an hour to drive the car, 60 minutes, as we say. And if he thinks there's something wrong, we've had an average of 7 dealer arbitrations a week that don't go through post-sale. So that's 28 total arbitrations a week. So if we're averaging 762 cars sold and we're only arbitrating 28 of them, I think that speaks to value of the community we have and what we do for a living. When people come to our auction to do business, they know they're going to be doing business with other people that are regulated, as it were, or at least they follow the rules that we have. We have really good rules, long-standing rules. Our auction just celebrated 38 years of business last week. I've been there for 36 out of the 38 years. I think there's value in that because our dealers know what the rules are. They behave accordingly. They sell cars and buy cars knowing that they're going to get a fair shake, and it makes the market work. So to go one step further, out of the arbitrations we had, we saved 37% of them. So the aggregate total in 8 weeks was we did 1,580 post sales, we had 163 arbitrations, and we saved 61 out of those 163. So a lot of times I have to mention that the buyers on the floor are buying the dealer on the block just as much as they're buying the car on the block. Reputation is everything. When you go to a physical auction and people know everybody, it's kind of like going to high school every day. You know who's who, and you know who's good, you know who's not good, you know who might be good or might not be good, and you act accordingly. So it's a pretty good filter on keeping people in line, I think, and it speaks volume for the value that we provide. The post-sale staff we have, I'm going to mention this. We have 16 technicians that drive those post-sale cars, and we have 3 people just chasing cars. I must mention the 16 techs that we have that do the post-sale inspection. They are our truck drivers. We've got 17 heavy trucks that we go out and transport vehicles with, and they're our first line of drivers for our post-sale. Then our arbitration staff consists of 3 administrators and 3 techs, and we've got 3 frame inspectors. So once again, it's value that we provide from having a brick and mortar auction. I'm not here to talk negatively about a non-brick and mortar auction. I'm just saying these are things that we do. We're really good at blocking and tackling. Everybody on this stage is. We get the job done by doing hard work and doing it the right way, and not everything can be duplicated electronically or digitally. And last thing,
hey, Jeff, to your point, I think, like you had mentioned, I think some of the key things that Jeff's getting at is that relationship with the independent dealer. I mean, most of these independent auctions were formed as a result of the need by the independent automobile dealer. And I think hitting on value, one of the other things that we've noticed has been key is the flexibility that the independent auctions have with you guys. And I know Ryan wanted to touch on some of that regarding just the flexibility and accountability that independent auctions have with you guys, because in the end, like I said, this is a two-way relationship to where we're just invested in this as auctions as you are as automobile dealers. And so I don't know, Ryan, if you want to touch on some of that as well, I think that'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, I think as independent dealers and independent auctions, I think we have a lot of similar experience, shared experience in terms of having bigger competitors, disruptors, whatever. And as an independent business owner, you have to be reactive. And I think we make decisions quickly. We a number of dealers will have either my number or my GM's number, and give us a call. And if there's something to be dealt with, we'll deal with it. And I think that's what's exciting about being on the independent side, is that you can try things out, and there's not multiple layers of management. I know safety has certainly been a big concern over the last year or two at the auctions, and we got together and decided, all right, we're going to put in 161 bollards, and it didn't take a long decision process, but we figured that for our employees and our customers, it was important, so we did it. And it was a quick decision. We felt like it was the right decision. And I think that says a lot about you guys as independent dealers. You're able to run your own show, and you have to respond to what's going on in the industry. At the same time, you can make decisions pretty quickly, and I think that's a crucial part of the independent auction experience.
Yeah, and kind of segueing that, I know with Lynn being the director of the IAG, I think one of the things that a lot of people might not always know, and kind of going back to brick and mortar, more of the beyond, is the fact that all the services that are being offered at these auctions and what all we do. I think a lot of times people just assume that we're just kind of landlocked and it's just going through the sale, and there's so much more. And I know, Lynn, from representing all of the auctions that you do, just the services and kind of all of those different a la carte items or whatever, if you want to kind of touch on that, because I think sometimes it gets lost just what all the independent auctions have to offer. There's so much more if you haven't been to one lately or aren't necessarily in tune, if you wanted to touch on that.
Absolutely. The first point I want to make, though, is to come back to what these guys have just said a minute ago, that what we do is customer service, and it starts at the top and goes right down through our entire organizations. And they're family-owned, family-run. Some are second and third generation, and it's a business that is hands-on day in and day out. And they're running each and every department of the auction, and the entire family is involved in doing it. But at an independent auction, you get service, You get accountability, you get access to the management team, and it all boils down to first-class customer service top to bottom. And with that, the independent auctions offer a full menu of services. And these are not unique to just independents, but keep in mind that we start with getting the cars to the auction, transportation, we check them in, we do condition reports, we do any kind of cleanup or reconditioning that needs to be done. The cars are placed on a spot or stored or held to get ready for sale, so we're doing both logistics and marshaling. And then all that's prior to sale day. Come sale day, we run them through the sale, and as Jeff said, when they're sold, we get a check and we get a title, and the day goes on, and we move those cars. Now the beyond is all of us are doing all of the upstream marketing, all the digital marketing. So the cars that don't sell immediately go up on any of the 4 industry portals that are available. We're using Auction Edge, OVE, Smart Auction, and Odessa.com. Being an independent auction, we're kind of like Switzerland. We can deal with everybody. Some of the chains don't play together too well. So we are able to upload to all of the portals that are available in the industry, and it's a huge advantage for you, the dealer, to get your vehicles seen by the most eyes and in the most different environments that are out there.
No, that's great. Kind of going full circle with that, I know with Bruce out in Oklahoma City, Bruce is going to be the president-elect of the ServNet Auto group we have. And I think one of the big things that Bruce has worked on is just those dealer relations. Like we said earlier, the relationship between the used car dealer and the independent auction has been a staple of since the beginning of time. And we all have talked before that almost 100% of the buyers in our lanes are people like you that are in these seats. It's the independent dealer, and the same thing for the guys bringing cars. And so I know one of the keys that Bruce has always worked on, not just within ServNet, but also within his own auction and this community, is just that relationship. And so I don't know, Bruce, if you want to kind of touch on that as well, is that the relationship that we have is so much more than just the services, like Lynn said, in the customer service, and Jeff with value. That relationship we continue to build, because in the end, it's the bread and butter of what we do.
Right. The auction community is built on the independent dealer, like you guys. I mean, you're our customers. You're the guys who walk in the door to buy cars. A lot of you bring cars to sell as well. But I think Lynn alluded to the service portion of it. I'm sure every auction out there has some variation of the phrase. I mean, ours we have posted on the wall is "Service is our only business." If we're not providing that service, we don't have anything to sell. We don't own the cars. We don't. We're the middleman in a transaction, and we're serving 2 parties here. It gets a little tricky sometimes to serve both sides of a transaction and keep everybody happy, but that's what we do. So. Within the ServNet group, we kind of decided that we spend a lot of time sponsoring events and going to conventions and spending time with our commercial consigners and some others, and that we maybe haven't focused as much on the dealer side of the business as we should have. So within the last year, we've established committees. We're working on how we can better build the relationship between the independent dealer community and our auctions, how we can work together as auctions to serve you from coast to coast, where, now that there is the digital marketplace, sometimes people think, well, if I buy a car at one of these independent auctions, but I'm 500 miles away, I've got the trouble of getting it back. We all have connections around the industry, and we can help each other service those transactions for you guys. So, I don't want you guys to think that you're limited by the location you buy that car from. Even as independent auctions, we have a good community out there that can work together, solve your problems, assist you, and do a lot of the things that other avenues for you to buy cars will do as well. So that's just something we're going to continue to grow, continue to work on. We'd like to continue to, I know Chad said this a million times to me, that we need to try and keep growing the ServNet organization. The independent community at large has shrunk to some degree. A lot of our bigger independent auctions are getting snapped up by, the bigger chains or some of the smaller chains that are emerging. So, our brotherhood is maybe getting a little smaller, but we're all just as strong as we've ever been, just like you as independent dealers. I mean, you guys face the same challenges we do. You've got disruptors and outside forces that are maybe do business a little different than the old traditional way of selling a car, you know. And so you guys are fighting that same battle, and you're trying to adapt just like we are. And our goal is to embrace everything that's out there and bring it into what we do along with our core business. So you know, and the one thing you guys got to remember, anytime you have, like, I can't remember who alluded, but we're all there, like Ryan. You know, my cell phone number's on all my emails I send out. It's on our website. So if somebody wants to call me, they can call me, and we'll listen. If you've got ideas, we're not opposed to hearing from our customers. We want to be proactive and not just have to be reactive to your needs. So, you know, remember that as you go to these auctions, you can talk to the people, you can bring up ideas, you can ask questions, and we're always going to be receptive to that. So it's a two-way street, and we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, and I think kind of segueing off of that, one of the things we've always talked about, like you said, is the relationship. And I know, you know, like my auction in Akron, Ohio, you know, we all have similar things in the fact that we're all an independent, but what we all do and how things go about, everyone works a little bit differently, but in the end, we all have the same results and the same goals of what we're trying to do. And I know, you know, a lot of times when people want to talk about technology or where we're going, I know in Akron, Ohio, we've been for the last decade on top lists of selling dealer volumes on OVE and Smart Auction. And I think sometimes the perception is just that we're kind of in our own little bubble, and it's far from it. I know Ryan as well, when it comes to technology, is one of the forefront leaders out there in the independent world of things he's doing and trying to find. And I don't know if you just want to talk about a little bit about, again, another service, another kind of tool in your war chest to be able to use. If you want to kind of hit on that, because I think, like I said, I think getting our awareness out there, not just the ServNet brand, but what all we do as independents is huge. And if you just want to kind of touch on where all you're going and what you're doing in the technology world that we're all doing, but that really hits home to you. Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that we've really shifted to in the last few years at our auction is going to sort of an omni-channel model where, you know, everything starts off with the lanes, but we are, you know, selling simulcast. We are selling what we call our out-of-the-gate program, which we actually copied Chad's out-of-the-gate program, actually. Where we're able to, as Lynn mentioned, as an independent, we can be platform agnostic. So we can post to any platform out there. And I know our auction is selling 80 to 90 cars a month that, you know, directly from the dealer's lot. And that's, you know, that's a supplement, you know, that's a few more weeks of the year that is just, you know, it's another way to serve our dealers with some different inventory. You know, we've launched a marketplace ourselves that we have 7 independent auctions on right now that we're rolling out to just get more eyes on the cars for our sellers and give more opportunities for our buyers to source inventory. And following up on Bruce's point, I think, and this relates somewhat to the technology, is as independent auctions, I think in the past we were all somewhat siloed, but now as people are buying from all over the country, whether it's, you know, it's a deal facilitated by Chad or by Bruce, I'll get a call from a dealer and say, hey, I'm looking at this car on whatever platform, or I'm looking at this on simulcast. What do you know about those guys? I'm like, oh, I know Chad. I work with him all the time, and I can put him in touch with either Chad or his GM. And, you know, and I know Jeff and Chad were just talking about a mutual dealer today that, you know, you can make those connections, and we're able to kind of bridge relationships across the independents, and, you know, we help each other out if there's a, you know, car gets somewhere, and we can kind of help each other out and help the dealers out, because ultimately it's about, you know, getting you guys inventory, getting you guys cars sold for you guys. So I think it's, as the independent community has been in huge, you know, we're investing across technology, and we're able to kind of keep those relationships, even really to supplement the technology that we're putting in place.
Yeah, and I think it kind of, again, keep rolling with that. Jeff had brought it up earlier, and I think that's one of the things that always is so unique to this industry, and especially the independents, is just the continually evolving. And I think the one neat thing that we've all kind of talked about in the end is, if all of a sudden something seems to change or we need to change, the people sitting up here on this panel make those decisions. So when it comes to seeing something different or knowing to make a change or seeing something that's going on out there, the nice thing about these auctions, not just the ServNet auctions, the independent auctions, all of them, let it be any of the ones you're with, have that ability to adapt and to morph into what needs. And I think, Jeff, you know, I'm sure you can continue to elaborate on just that community atmosphere and community feeling that you guys have. What Jeff has is amazing. I've been to his facility, and it's great. And there's 189 other ones that have that same feeling. And while some might serve chicken and waffles in the lane on a Tuesday, others might shoot off fireworks on a Friday, the atmosphere you're not getting sitting in your pajamas at home. And that interaction you're having, and as most of you guys know, the same thing, you can get a quick education in the lane on the market and find out about what you thought that 2018 F-250 was worth versus what you thought it was worth when you were sitting at home. And I know Jeff's a beacon of what goes on in the sense of just that relationship he has. And I don't know, Jeff, if you can elaborate more. It's unique in the fact of just, you don't see it in a lot of other big situations. Jeff's auction is truly amazing. I mean, the community is huge, which is you guys, that community.
Well, some of the synergy that I see between an independent auction and you independent dealers is, and it really is a synergy. I know that's an overused word, but it's very appropriate in this manner. And I'll tell an analogy. I think when somebody pulls into a small town and they've never been there, let's say it's somebody's traveling through someplace, and he pulls up and he asks somebody that looks friendly on the street, he said, "Where's the best restaurant in town?" I guarantee you they're not going to send you to a chain restaurant. They're going to tell you to go to Mangialardo's or Yanuzzi's or Moretti's or whatever. You can tell I'm from an Italian part of the country, but same thing goes for car dealers. I really think that nationwide, if you really took, you people that are here, anybody that's here to this convention, I know without even thinking about it, they're a very, very smart, progressive, knowledgeable used car dealer. And any of you men or women that are out there understand what I'm saying about taking care of your customers and also taking care of your employees and taking care of your business. And to that point, one thing that all of us independents have in common is we answer to ourselves as owners, we answer to our families, we don't answer to shareholders, we don't answer to venture capitalists, we don't answer to Wall Street, we're not publicly traded, and we have to make money. And in these days and times, that's getting to be a little bit of a unique situation where we have to make money, because there's a lot of people in this world now that don't have to make money to be in business. There's a saying that my nephew told me a few years ago. He said, people confuse finance with business. And I think there's a lot of instances in this world where there's things going on because of the price of money, with money being as cheap as it is, with the Federal Reserve having 1%, 2% real rates on money, and with all the money that's sloshing around, there are a lot of people that are in business that wouldn't be in business if you could get 7% on your money for having it sitting in a savings account. A lot of this financial business would be out of business. It's the same thing with your business. You have to make money. You have to make money by buying and selling cars or trucks. And what we are there to help you with is to facilitate that. We are no good unless you're making money. You are our customers. Without customers, we're all out of business. And you are the bulk of our customers, believe me. It's not franchise dealers. It's the independent dealer that has gotten us to where we are, and it's the DNA that runs through all of our businesses.
No, I don't think you could put that any better. And I know, like you said, I'm sure some of you in the room recognize some of these people up here. You interact with them. You're at their auctions. And I think, obviously, the relationship we have, like you said, it's a two-way street. Lynn, back to kind of the IAG and that, if you just want to kind of elaborate more on just some of the, the other things that are going on, other initiatives that the independents are working on. I know, like I said, the nice thing is, and you can see it out here when you walk down the exhibit halls at this conference. You sure see it as well when you're going down the NADA's halls and even at the conferences that we host for auto auctions. There's so many things moving and changing, as well as the independents. I know you're getting ready for a conference to have to get on. If there's other things, just to kind of also talk about kind of where else the beyond we're going.
Well, the IAG works very closely with the National Auto Auction Association, Frank Hackett and his staff, and try to push the industry initiatives a little harder and a little more directly to our 190 members. Probably the two most important right now are safety in the lanes, safety for our employees and for our dealers who are visiting the auction. It's at the top of the list. We've got training going on throughout the industry. We're actually out visiting auctions and walking the auctions with the management and talking about some safety issues on their property, and trying to improve this all the way around. And being in the business for 30-some years, when I'm in an auction and I see a dealer with his cell phone in his hand backing up to look at a car, and he's backing right into the path of another one, I'm going, oh my God, and you go up and give him a big hug and pull him the hell out of the way. It goes on all the time, but it's something we're all concerned about. We're taking steps to stay in front of that, but I think safety on our lots, for our employees, most importantly for our customers and our visitors at the auctions, is first and foremost. Another issue that keeps raising its ugly head is compliance. You guys are dealing with it day in and day out. CFPB is out of control, in my opinion, and they're drilling down in a lot of areas that we need to be in front of. Heaven forbid any of us is the next example they want to make. Anytime they come in to your place of business or our place of business, they can find something wrong. There's no doubt about it. There's no way we can stay on top of everything, but you got to cross the I's, you got to dot the T's, and we're working with our auctions to make them as compliant as they possibly can be. But from your standpoint, you need to be looking at anything you're doing, with your customers financially, with paperwork. Little crazy things like you can't leave a contract or a title or anything with a customer's name on your desk and go home at night, or leave it there, period. It's if they walk around your office and they see something, they can find you for something as simple as that. You may have been working on it 10 minutes ago and you went to answer the door, and now they all of a sudden they want to know why that's laying there. So anyway, there are a million things like that, but those are the two primary things right now. I think we're getting ready for a convention. We've got a lot of educational information for our members that work both ways. We work closely with our state association, Reggie, and so in his meetings he's got coming up. He's going to a series of regional meetings this year, and we're going to the auction industry will be participating with those as well. So a lot going on.
No, that's great. It's going to be exciting times, especially for the association as well as the independent dealers. Kind of piggybacking those initiatives, I know Bruce and I have talked at length about sometimes regarding arbitration and standards. And I think one of the good things that we have going on in our industry, within our association, and that are in each of these auctions that are here and a part of the association, is a set ruling of standards to where there's something to go by. So if you do have an issue with a car, if you as a buyer or a seller, there's things to be held up against. And I know Bruce and I have talked at length about just the arbitration process and the standards. I don't know if you wanted to kind of talk a little bit about just the value of that to a dealer, to where you're not just told to either go talk to somebody else, or you didn't read the fine print, or that's not my problem, or buyer beware, or name it. I know it's a big thing with you is the standards as well, and so I don't know if you want to talk about that I think really also differentiates us of what we do.
It is, and I know, first of all, any of you have ever bought a car and had to go to arbitration, it's the last thing you want to do, and it's probably the worst experience you've ever had at an auction, and trust me, it's probably the least fun part of our world too. We don't like to get into those situations. We don't want to get into those situations, but unfortunately, we do, and it is good that the National Auto Auction Association is constantly working on those standards, constantly trying to tweak them. I think I just answered a survey last week from the standards committee that they'd sent out to all the auctions to get their opinion on some proposed changes that they're making. And we look at those from the perspective of our customer. How's that going to be perceived by you guys? It's, like I say, there's pressure from a lot of areas to make changes to that, but some of those changes don't make sense. So it's up to us as an industry to kind of help police that and keep those standards into a reasonable area where a buyer can expect certain things from a transaction and a seller can expect certain things from that transaction. And if everyone goes in knowing where they stand, that there shouldn't be a lot of angst and dispute at the end of it. But one thing is independence, and I had this situation in the past week where we had an arbitration situation where, I mean, a guy just flat didn't agree with our decision. We checked the car, even though there were some announcements. We went the extra, we actually fixed this car, told the guy, he still didn't believe that there was wrong. He was 3 hours from us. He finally told me if I had somebody drive that car to him and it made it that distance, that he'd take the car. That's a risk. I mean, you know, if that car would have broke down halfway, I owned it. So, but we went that way. We saved a customer. The car got to him. He honored his end of the deal. I honored my end of the deal, and we put it to bed. Those are, you know, as independents, those are some of the things we do to kind of maybe go above and beyond what you might see sometimes. You know, we got, you know, I use this a lot with our customers, in that, you know, I hear the customer's always right. Well, in our world, there's two customers in every transaction, neither one of which is us. There's a buyer and there's a seller. So, and unfortunately, there are times when both of them can't be right. So that's where, like I said, it's probably the least fun part of your auction experience. It's certainly the least fun of our part of the auction experience. But we do try and work those things out. We do push hard to make those standards fair for everybody, and so that your auction experience is enjoyable, and we don't have to get into those kind of situations any more often than absolutely possible. So.
No, that's great. I know we're kind of getting a little bit short on time. I just kind of wanted to let, like I said, each of these gentlemen up here are truly unique in what they do, how they do things, and then the relationships they have with their dealers. So I was just going to kind of end it with each of you, you know, kind of a last parting comment, something that either is critical to you that we haven't been able to talk about, or that you just kind of want to leave a nugget of knowledge with the audience. I appreciate, again, all the time that you guys have put up here. And like I said, I think one thing that's pretty obvious to say is that, you know, the automobile auction industry, especially these brick and mortars, is stronger than it's ever been. The relationships we have with you guys is what's made us. Like I said, a lot of these independent auctions, if not most of them, I think Ryan even meant his auction was founded by an independent dealer. The relationship we have is stronger than ever. I mean, I think almost everyone here up on this panel, myself included, has sat on an independent dealer association board, a state board, something on those boards. The passion we have, you know, we're not fragmented into 25 different things. We're fragmented into one, which is customer service and our dealers. And I think it's obvious by listening to this group and the other 150 of them, the passion we have and the drive we have and what we get up every day to do. It's not a job. It's fun to be a part of this industry and with what you guys are going. So I don't know if you guys just each want to kind of to give one last final thing here that we weren't able to touch on. I appreciate again and excited to have you guys here and what we all did.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something we haven't touched on, but I think just following up on your comment and the importance and the synergy between independent auction and independent dealers. Chad mentioned, you know, my grandfather founded our auction. This is our 45th year. He was an independent dealer for 60 years. And so it's literally in our DNA of our auction. I mean, our slogan is built by the dealer for the dealer. And so I think we recognize we recognize the challenges that independent dealers face, because, you know, they're not the same, but they're related to the challenges that independent auctions face, for whether it's new entrants into the market or just compliance or safety. That you can't go tap the public markets for a bunch of equity or you know, to pay for it. You have to. It comes out of your pocket. It comes out of, and you have to make smart decisions about how you're spending your money and how you're growing your business. And so I think that there's some symbiotic relationship between what we do and what the independent dealer does, and I think that's important for us to always remember. I know that's what we always remember for our business.
Okay, I think that we're in the same industry as our competition, but we're not in the same business. Our big competitors, which are chain competitors, this is a visual. They offer this many products, one of which, one silo, is their auction component. And we've got major chain competitors like that. Their auction component is what got them into the automotive business, but it's not the biggest part of their business anymore. We are in the auction business, so that's what we do. That's our get up and go to work in the morning and go home and go to bed at night. That's our business, just like your business is to you. Another thought I have is that when people talk about the digital revolution, I mean, I know the title of this is Bricks and Mortar, and as I say, sometimes it's looked down upon, but When you think about all the digital and electronic sales that are going on, there's still a big, big human element to that. There's still a lot of hand selling. There's still a lot of phone calls. There's still a lot of bartering or bargaining at the end. And even though they call it digital or electronic, it still comes down to the human element and the human touch. And my final thing I'm going to say is the market will prevail. I'm a big believer that whatever happens going forward in the future, the market will prevail. If electronic and digital is the way to go, then they will replace us and they'll be running more cars than we are. And if that's not the way it's going to go, then we're going to be just fine. And of course, you know which way I'm voting. So I'll turn it over to you, Lynn.
You're a hard act to follow, man. The only thing I'd add here at the end is that, make your relationship with whatever auction you're using personal. Every independent auction owner, his family that works there, his general managers want to get to know you if they don't know you. It's good for your business. It's good for our business to know who you are, and when you come into the auction, and we can help you in a million different ways. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid to ask. Walk up and introduce yourself and shake hands. Walk into our office or knock on our door, and you'll be welcome with open arms. I can pretty much guarantee it. It's a personal business. There's no other business like it, and it's the same with you guys and your repeat customers. We want you there every week. We want you to feel comfortable. So make it personal.
Exactly. I think I'm just going to build on what Lynn was saying there, and everybody else is. It's important for us to know who our customers are, and for you to know us. If you don't, I know a lot of people will go to an auction. They go in, they go out. They don't talk to anybody. And it may not be a bad experience, but we want to know who you are. We want to know what we can do for you. There's a lot to. Like I said to start, we're kind of in the same business. We're all independent business owners. You guys have a business to run, and families and employees to take care of, and so do we. And it all works together and goes in a cycle. So there's probably more things that your auction will do for you and can do for you than you even know. So we have a lot of things that we can offer. So make sure you talk to the people at your local auction, and that you develop that relationship. We definitely want to with you, so we hope you want to with us. So.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, I figured they asked me to kind of give my 2 cents, and so same thing. I mean, my auction was founded, my grandfather started it 45 years ago, and he was a new car dealer. He was one of those guys that, would sell jackets out of the back of his trunk. He was the guy my dad Saturday morning had to go drive around to figure out where he left his car the night before with his other buddies that were car dealers, and he was that guy that was just, next thing you know, he had 2 buddies that were auctioneers, and they were like, well, if you can find the cars, my grandfather also was a wholesaler, and you can call them off, I think we have something, maybe we can work here. And I think the story I'll never forget hearing from him was in 1978, the sale before Christmas, a guy sold a $1,200 car, and it got arbitrated. And you'll never forget the guy standing over there. He was on our public phone, and he was on the phone in tears, calling his wife, telling her, I'm really sorry, that $1,200 car, it got arbitrated, and I don't know what we're going to do for Christmas. And my grandfather heard it, walked over, and kind of said to him, hey, I apologize, And my grandfather, if you knew him, he was like, that jackass, he didn't know what he was doing. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry, they screwed it up, and here's your check. And gave the guy his check, and the guy called back and got another nickel out of his phone, called back and, told his wife, something must have happened, we're good. We're good for Christmas. And I've never forgotten that story and how I run what I do now, and we've grown to now 255 employees and everything we do, but it always goes back to that dealer. And it goes back to knowing it's so much bigger, it's the relationship, it's what we are. It's not just the car, it's not just the fee, it's not just the number, it's the relationship. And I think these guys all stand by that, as well as all of these people in our industry. It's the relationship, and it's you guys that in the end, puts food on our tables as well. So I appreciate you guys all taking time and coming to listen to everybody here today. Hopefully you got something from it. I apologize that we ran up to the time it's over. If there's questions afterwards, if anyone would have anything they want to come up and talk to anybody about regarding anything on a national level or at a local level, please feel free to come up. I thank you guys again for attending. Hope you enjoy and continue to enjoy the conference, and look forward to seeing everyone at the reception tonight. Thank you guys again.